G'day guys, in this video I'm just going to show you a little bit about the Kinabalu climb. I've just finished climbing it myself and thought I would clear up a few things by making a little guide on the climb itself, giving some tips and hints, showing you my experiences with the climb, including the Via Ferrata, Lows Peak circuit. Also covered in this video will be the Kinabalu National Park main headquarters substation. Borneo is the third largest island in the world. It is located in Southeast Asia. It consists of 3 countries, Brunei, Indonesia and Malaysia. Malaysia has 2 states on Borneo. The Kinabalu National Park, which is where Mount Kinabalu is located, is in the state of Sabah. To get here, you'll need to fly into Kota Kinabalu City. Most climb packages will include pick-up and drop-off from Kota Kinabalu City before and after you do the climb. However, I was making my own way to the Kota Kinabalu National Park. I wasn't staying in the national park because it's so expensive. Instead, I was doing what most people do, which is stay in the nearby town of Kundasang. Visiting the national park for a few days before you do the climb is a good way to acclimatise if you feel like you need to. Feels like it's been a long day already, but it's only probably just gone past 2ish. Estimated time of arrival in Kundasang is about 3:30, and yeah, check into the accommodation. Cruisy afternoon, not much planned. Tomorrow I'm going to check out more of the national park. The national park closes at 5 o'clock, so if you're not staying in the national park, you get kicked out. So there's no point paying for entry. By the time I check in, it'll be 4 o'clock anyway. Views of Kinabalu to the left. So this is Kundasang. This is the closest accommodation town if you're not staying in the national park itself. The national park itself is a lot easier. It means you don't get kicked out at 5 o'clock. Obviously, you can do things such as guided night walks. However, it is very expensive. After what seemed like an eternity, with a long travel day and an overnight flight, I was finally at my accommodation in Kundasang. It involved a very long and steep driveway, which is all worth it for the views. After passing the check-in test, which was to defeat this small little cat, also known as a kitten, I was able to relax and enjoy the views of Kota Kinabalu. Knowing that I'd be climbing it in 2 days, it was interesting to have a look, get the camera out, take some photos, and just try and see what I had in store. When judging mountain sizes, not by their altitude above sea level, but by their prominence, which basically means how much they stand out from the surrounding landscape, Kinabalu is the 20th highest in the world. I feel like this stat goes a long way to describing why it's so striking. The views in the morning from Highland Homestay were just as good as the ones in the afternoon. It gave me an opportunity to take some photos of the mountain with the long lens. From here I could see the lay of the land and where the accommodation sits halfway up the mountain. But we'll go back into this a bit later on in the video. So today I'm just heading into the national park just to have a look around, do some smaller hikes. I don't want to put too much wear and tear into my legs before the Kinabalu climb, so I'm just going to do a couple small hikes, have a look around, and tomorrow will be more of a relaxing day before the day after I start the climbs. The gates to the national park open at 8 AM. It is 50 ringgit entry, and it is about a 10 to 15 minute drive from the town of Kundasang, depending on traffic. When I was there was the option to pay by card or by cash. Once you enter the park, you will join a ring road. This is a one-way road. There are parking areas towards the convention centre and the Luagu restaurant. There is also parking at the main gate, however this tends to get really busy. Okay guys, so this is Kota Kinabalu. This is the park headquarters, the main station I guess you could call it. It is broken up into little substations. Obviously Pouring Hot Springs is another one. This is probably the main one. They're the main 2, but there are others as well. There's a bunch of different walking trails throughout the park, 10 in total. I'll show you a little mud map now. At the time that I'm here, 2 of those are closed, which includes the longest trail, which is fine by me because it's probably a little bit too long for me anyway. So I'm going to start on Mempening and then I'm going to turn around and go to Silau, all the way back to the car and the restaurant and have lunch. The trails do all crisscross. If you do one to completion, you will more than likely pass another 2 or 3 trails as you go, just at crossroads. So to do them all from start to completion will involve a lot of backtracking. It's not massive distances, but it might be 1.5 to 2 kilometres, and it all adds up. So I've reached the crossroads, first of many I'm sure. We've got Silau-Silau continues up the riverbed. That is the one I had planned on following. Bukit Tupai trail. Well, I think that shelter that they're marking, I think that is the summit and has a lookout. I'm going to head up there, then I'll come back down, carry on through Silau-Silau. A little bit humid, obviously, it's in the jungle, but compared to when I was walking around in the sun trying to find leech socks, there's quite a nice breeze coming through here. This substation of the national park is at elevation, so it's a little bit cooler than if you're doing a sea level hike through a rainforest. It's my first time ever using walking sticks or hiking poles. Don't know what I'm doing, but I feel kind of cute. Never used hiking poles before in my life, but I'm glad I bought them, especially going downhill. Just helping on the knees a lot. Normally I wouldn't bother for these sort of day hikes, but I'm just trying to get used to them for the Kinabalu climb, especially that last day, which is all downhill. You can pick up a pair here if you want. I just bought these from home. Had them for a couple of years. Never once have I used them, but definitely recommended, especially if you've got dodgy knees. So this is the Bukit Tupai Observatory. I think this is kind of for bird watching. I can hear a lot. Haven't seen any yet. I haven't seen much wildlife at all, but I am doing this unguided. Another thing worth mentioning is that you can obviously do guided tours, which will reveal a lot more of the information about the rainforest itself, the area, the local people, and they will be better at spotting animals than you, probably. But yeah, you don't really need a plan as such unless you have a particular preference. You can just pick a trail and start walking. There's lots of exit points for the majority of the trails. I did download just on maps.me, the offline maps as well, so I can see the trails as I'm going. Sometimes that's easier than folding the paper out. I'm going to head off now on the Mempening trail and then join the Silau forest back to where we were, just down there. I'd be lying if I said this was where I wanted to be. Pretty sure this is the wrong observatory, which that means I've gone the wrong way on Mempening Trail. The way I thought I was going is complete opposite direction. Not too much to report, it's mostly flat, a little bit of incline, decline. Not too many animals, some cool mossy trees and stuff in the jungle. A few butterflies and spiders, but I haven't seen any exotic insects or anything like that. It's more flying insects. We are back on the Silau-Silau trail, which follows the Silau River. You can tee off here over to the visitor centre where you come in, where you keep going 250 metres and we'll get to the Botanical Gardens, which is round about where the Luwagi restaurant is. May as well follow that Silau-Silau trail since I'm on it. There's another tee off about 250 metres up. After finishing the trail, I went into Luwagi restaurant to try and get some lunch. I was running a bit later than I had expected, just driving around trying to get my head around the orientation of the park itself. The food at Luwagi restaurant is good, the views are nice, you can sit outside. As I was sitting outside, I noticed a heavy mist rolling in, getting lower and lower through the tree canopy. After lunch, I decided to head to the Botanical Gardens. So with all the mist around, it's not much point doing the Kiau view trail on the west side of the park. That's what I was going to do, or the mountain view one up near the Timpohon gate, which is where you start the Kinabalu climb. So I'm just going to check out the Botanical Garden. I think it's about 5 ringgit entry. Just a little quick 20-minute walk, but at least I'll be able to see down here.
The Botanical Garden isn't for everyone. To be honest, without the mist and fog around, I probably wouldn't have found it as exciting as I did.
This is actually surprisingly cool. I think the mist is actually helping. It's definitely keeping the temperature down, but it makes it look even better than it would otherwise, because there's no view here, it's just the jungle. So the mist definitely helps. So this is the Botanical Gardens. It's 5 ringgit entry. I mean, you can walk the whole loop in 20 minutes if you didn't stop to read any of the plaques, but there's a few different plaques with information about the plants. You can do guided walks through here as well. So with this mist around, potentially gonna rain, I can hear the thunder and all that. I might not be able to do too much more today. So I'm just gonna finish exploring this Botanical Garden, and that might be it for today, but you get the idea. National park, trees, lizards, insects. Some people have seen squirrels and stuff, but I haven't been lucky enough to see any of that sort of stuff at the moment. The leeches have not been an issue at all. The trails have been quite clear, so I haven't had to brush through too much stuff. So far, so good with the leeches. No need for leech socks. Potentially they are worse in the wet season or when it's raining. So that's Kinabalu National Park. You basically walk around, a couple of trails on the west side, a couple on the east, majority on the eastern side of the park. 2 of them are closed when I'm here. I think they've been closed for a while. There is a bit of lightning and thunder around. I'm hoping this mist doesn't turn into rain, but this is a rain forest, so there's a good chance it will. So I'm going to try and finish off this loop, and then I might head back into my accommodation or into town. And tomorrow I do want to come here and do one of the other trails on the western side if I can. That's pretty much me done for today. Not much else to check out. The fog is definitely set in now. It's not very good visibility at the moment. It's almost closed, so I'm not sure if it's worth it, but I'm going to drop in at the Kundasang War Memorial So it is 4:30, so I won't have long here. It closes at 5. It's 15 ringgit to get in for foreigners. I think it was 5 for Malaysians. Yeah, let's have a look around. Alright guys, so that was the it's a British, Australian and New Zealand War Memorial about prisoners of war. Basically there were 2,400 prisoners of war at the Sandakan camp and only 6 survived through a series of hardships, marches and transportation, and obviously just straight up killings. It's World War II we're talking about, and it goes on to explain a bit about some of the guys that did escape, some of the guys that didn't, some of the local people that helped out the prisoners of war. Got good views as well. Just behind me is the markets, and up there obviously is Kinabalu. Just stopped in this morning for breakfast at Anu Cafe. Same sort of views as I get from my homestay, so if your homestay has the views, you won't find it that exciting, but if it doesn't, then it might be worth dropping in. So I'm just heading into the main portion of the national park again, where the headquarters are. I did have loose plans to go to Pouring Hot Springs as well, but I'll see how I go for time. If I did go to the hot springs, I'd need to dry my pants as well, which would be a hassle. See how we go.
To enter the national park, you pay the 50 ringgit entry fee every day. You can leave and enter as many times as you want, including going to Pouring Hot Springs under the same 50 ringgit fee.
Okay, so I'm just starting the Pandanus trail, which goes up to the Kiau View trail. I did want to do the Kiau View trail, but there's no parking near either of the entry or exit points, so just Pandanus sort of cuts into it and then joins it. And then I'll just walk around back down to the car. It's going to be pretty steep at the beginning here, and it's supposed to level out. So far the Pendant track's been reasonably steep, hasn't really let up yet. I think it is meant to be quite short. The crossroads to the Kiau View trail should be just up here. It's a lot more humid than I remember it being yesterday. I don't know if it's just this western side of the park where I am, because I'm blocked by the landmass at the moment, but hopefully once we get up to the ridge trail it'll be a little bit cooler. It's already gone past 9 o'clock. It's looking less and less likely by the minute that I'm going to make it out to Pouring Hot Springs substation today. So from that turn off, you've got to keep an eye out. There's a little hook turn to do, which I nearly missed until I realised I was descending again. I had to turn around and go back. And then it keeps ascending even more in the Pandanasan trail, which is annoying because I know I'm going to have to go down as much as I come up. But on the plus side, we're now on this ridge line. This beautiful breeze coming through here. It feels 4 or 5 degrees cooler as soon as you break that ridge line. As far as viewpoints go, there hasn't been any yet, but yeah, I'll keep an eye out. I'm about 3/4 of the way through the hike now, and I haven't seen any wildlife really. Obviously it's around, you can hear it everywhere, but besides some spiders and butterflies, I haven't really seen too much. The walk itself is peaceful. I did like the bit along the ridge. I wouldn't say there are good views because the jungle obviously blocks all those views even when you're on the ridge line, but there's a nice breeze up there and it dips down again. As we get closer to the north end of the trail, it starts to get a bit more humid again. Definitely glad I have the hiking poles. There's a lot of soft mushy parts even on the ridge line, which is weird. You'd think that would be the driest point, but yeah, there are points where my boots could have easily sunk down if it wasn't for the hiking poles placed a little bit wide of the track to support me a little bit. So definitely recommend having some hiking poles. It's not really much to film because all the jungle kind of looks the same. Moss covered, some vines, spiders, interesting looking plants and all that, but we saw a lot of that yesterday. Don't know which way to go here. Just about at the end, there's a little shelter here with a view of a mountain. It's not Kinabalu, but yeah, there's a nice viewpoint and a breeze again, which we were blocked out of for a while. And I know I'm near the end because I can hear people on the main road, can hear car doors and voices. So that is the Kiau View Trail. It's pleasant enough. I didn't see much wildlife, but I'm not very good at spotting wildlife in general anyway. It's another chance to get out and go for a walk through the jungle. Whoa, there's wildlife. It's an insect of all things in the jungle. I'm gonna pack the cameras up now, just head down to the main road. And then I'm just going to run a couple of errands, get things ready for tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm doing the Kinabalu hike. So I'm just going to go buy some snacks and get some cash out and stuff because you've got to take cash with you. If I have time after lunch, I'll head to Pouring Hot Springs, but I'm leaning towards not going at this point.
Due to the way the hiking trails come out onto the ring road, it's very rare that you'll come out near your car park. So you normally have a bit of a walk just to get back to the car.
I decided to go to Pouring Hot Springs and I'm really regretting it. This is massive traffic jam. So I might bail on this attempt and turn around. So yeah, unfortunately there was no Pouring Hot Springs today. I did try, but the traffic was so slow and bad and I had kilometers to go. But I am basically all ready for tomorrow. Just got to pack my bags up now. This car can't even go up the hill with the aircon on. You have to turn the aircon on.
I was up early the next day, having breakfast at a new cafe again. I was a little bit deterred by the amount of cloud coverage that I could see on the mountain. Normally at sunrise it was clear, but today was full of cloud at sunrise and well after. I knew the national park didn't open till 8, but I wanted to get there a little bit early to give myself time to park the car and get around to the main office to start the hike as soon as possible. To give a little bit more background on what I'm about to do, I feel like it's worth explaining the Mount Kinabalu climbing options, just so you have a better understanding of what you can and can't do when climbing the mountain.
So you want to climb Mount Kinabalu?
Sifting through all the different tour packages to climb Mount Kinabalu can make it seem like quite a confusing thing. However, I'm going to try and clear the confusion here, go over the basics, and let you fill in the rest of the minor details. This here is Mount Kinabalu. This is what we are climbing. You cannot climb the mountain in one day. This has been the case for a long time now. You must stay overnight. You must have accommodation on the mountain. As soon as you have accommodation, you have a climbing slot. You must have a guide. You can climb with or without a Via Ferrata package, which I'll explain a bit more in the future. You can do the climb without a tour just by doing a DIY style of booking. So you can't do the climb in one day, you must have accommodation. Where do you stay? Ignore this hut down here, it is under construction, has been for a long time, and is not currently open to tourists. This area is called Panalaban. This is where all 4 accommodation options are, each one differs in a slight way. Laban Rata is the main one. This is where you will be booking if you're doing a DIY tour. It's where all your meals will be held. Lamang Hostel and the Panalaban Hostel are new. Lamang Hostel is for Malaysian residents only. Panalaban Hostel is split into 2 blocks, Moko Duo and Kinatoki. Lastly, up the top here, we have Pendant Hut. Pendant Hut is the accommodation for people who are doing the Via Ferrata packages. You cannot book Pendant Hut if you are not doing Via Ferrata. This is Via Ferrata. It is a guided climb along the mountain. There are no real technical mountain climbing skills required. You have steps and grab rails the whole way, as well as having pretty good grip on the granite. However, if you are afraid of heights, you probably don't want to do this. If you do want to do it, there are 2 routes to choose from. One is the Lowe's Peak Circuit. This is just over 1 kilometre in length and takes anywhere from 3.5 to 7 hours. The other one is the Walk the Talk, which is a bit more beginner friendly. Take these drawings with a grain of salt. This is just me from my recollection of roughly where the paths went. If you want to book everything DIY, the 2 newer hostels, Panalaban Hostel and Lamang Hostel, are run by Sabah Parks. Not once have I ever seen these with availability. It's always worth a check, but I honestly recommend just jumping on to Sutura Sanctuary Lodges and booking through Laban Rata, which normally has availability if you book well enough in advance. The prices are all listed for non-Malaysian as well as Malaysian residents. You can scroll down if you want to spend big and get a private room. The options are all here. It clearly states whether it is for a non-Malaysian or a Malaysian, and it also clearly states that the Sabah park fees are excluded, and it tells you how many meals are included in the package. If you want to book Via Ferrata activities, now this is a bit different. You don't book through Sutura Sanctuaries. This is run by a company called Mountain Talk. Get into contact with them through the website. You'll be able to book tours with them or book a DIY package with them where they will include the Via Ferrata activities with you. If you book everything DIY, regardless of whether you do Via Ferrata or not, you will have these fees to pay on the day. 400 ringgit for an international climber, another 50 ringgit to enter, which is the same as every entry to the national park, and 350 ringgit minimum for a mountain guide. You can split this up to 5 ways if you find enough people at sign-in who are willing to share. There is also optional porter fees, and the fees change depending on how high you want them to carry your stuff and whether it exceeds the 10 kilogram limit. On top of this, not shown on the website, is a 35 ringgit fee for a shuttle bus transfer from the National Park headquarters sign-in to Timpohon Gate, which is 4 kilometres away. Timpohon Gate is the place where you actually start the climb, so I highly recommend getting this shuttle bus. Otherwise, you are adding 4.3 kilometres onto an already long walk. Why are there so many different tour options? Every tour is an extension of the most basic tour. The most basic tour is 2 days, 1 night. This is because 1 night is compulsory in Panalaban. Some tours will add in another night. This is normally in Kota Kinabalu National Headquarters, and they will say this is for acclimatization, with the headquarters being at roughly 1,800 metres above sea level. However, because I had already spent a few days in the national park in the town of Kundasang, I didn't book one of these tours. A lot of tours include pick-up and drop-off at Kota Kinabalu City. You can get the tours cheaper by removing this cost if you are already in the area. Other tours will even involve hotel stays and all sorts of other things. The tour that I ended up doing was actually a 3-day, 2-night tour, but it's different. I did 2 nights in Panalaban. Now the reason for this was because I wanted the flexibility. If we did get rained off one day, I would have the freedom to be able to attempt to climb again the next day. This tour package does not include the cost of climbing the summit twice, although you can do that. You only have 1 summit climb included, as well as the Via Ferrata. I removed the cost of the Kota Kinabalu transfers from my tour, and this is the final tour that I decided to go with. I could have done it a little bit cheaper by doing it at DIY, but it was just simpler to get the tour with all of the transfer shuttle bus fees included, as well as having a packed lunch and everything sorted for me. If you do drive yourself and you park around near the convention centre, there is a free shuttle bus doing the ring road, which will take you to the sign-in point at the main office. This is handy as this is a long walk and it's also uphill. Just after 8 o'clock I met the guide and we went through the registration process. The guide was also doubling as my porter, as it was just me and the one guide. Then we got the shuttle bus out to Timpohon gate.
We're at the gate to start now. It's about 8:30ish, maybe just gone past, so I was actually allowed to enter the car into the national park about 1:45, so I managed to get registration done pretty quickly. Start this climb, it's not much really, it's jungle and steps. Yeah, it's not going to be too much to film, but I'll try and film each of the checkpoints with the timestamps, just so you know how long I'm taking. My bag's a bit heavier than normal, obviously, probably about 8 or 9 kilos. Got way too much water and obviously camera gear, so let's start the climb.
If you are curious about the climb, just Google Mount Kinabalu Climb Trail Map. Nearly every website, especially the ones running tours, have their own map. This is just a handful that you can see online, but there are plenty more with just as much or more detail. The climb itself doesn't involve anything technical, it's just a lot of stairs and rock. Throughout the climb there are multiple toilet stops, however the water is not the best for drinking, so it's important to carry all of your drinking water.
Alright guys, so we've finally broken out the jungle for a little bit. I think we're about to re-enter, but we're just on a little ridgeline here. I've no idea what the time is, but I started at 8:45. I'll flash the time up on the screen now. Yeah, some of the landscape's starting to change. We've got some sort of moss hanging off the trees and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. So far, I think it's been relatively easy, but I have been overtaking people. Maybe I underestimated how unfit everyone was, but I haven't found it too difficult. The cloud cover is helping because the temperature's been down. It does get sweaty, especially on your back where your backpack is, but such a nice cool breeze flowing through here that so far I think it's a pretty easy walk. Well, not easy, but not as challenging as I thought. It does help, obviously, it's not raining, so it's not muddy. Got good grip underfoot. If it was raining, this would take a lot more time. This is the first sort of change of scenery that I've seen. I've passed 2 guest houses already, and this is pretty nice.
As part of a booked tour, you will have a packed lunch. If you're doing a DIY, it's important to remember lots of snacks or your own packed lunch. The stopping mark for most people for lunch is this shelter here, about 4 kilometres into the trail. Although stopping is okay, you don't want to stop for too long because your body starts to cool down. We were faced with a descending mist and fog, and the temperature really did start to drop.
It's a race against the rain, and the rain is just coming in now, so I'm just putting the main camera away. And everything from here will be on the GoPro. I haven't really filmed much. It's about half hour out of the lunch stop there, so probably around 12. But yeah, only 1800 metres to go. It's going to be steep though, and it's a race against the rain. freezing cold when you stop. Like, my hands don't have much movement, but body temp's through the roof when you start walking. But yeah, t-shirt and shorts is fine. It's probably 10 degrees now, but still feel good.
The GoPro doesn't quite do this justice, but this particular portion of the track was actually quite enchanting to walk through.
I know everyone says it's about the experience, but I'm really hoping this clears by tomorrow. Right, so it's about 1:15. We left at 8:45. That's 4.5 hours for me to get from the gate to Panalaban, 3,272 metres. We started around 1800 or 1880, so the walk itself 6 kilometres distance and about 1400 elevation gain, maybe closer to 1500, and then elevation gain tomorrow's another 900 metres or thereabouts, I think. But yeah, 4.5 hours, I think that's a decent time. I've got my Via Ferrata activity guide check-in at about 3:30, so I get to lie down for a little bit, maybe do a few stretches. I would love to show you around the accommodation options, but this visibility at the moment, I don't know if you can tell, but you can't really see anything. So hopefully tomorrow, if it's clear, I can show you around the actual accommodation options.
By this point I was almost frozen. My hands weren't working, my legs were okay as long as we stayed warm. It was freezing cold and blowing a gale. Through the mist here is Pendant Hut.
For the lunch, for the dinner.
Yep.
The dinner spot here. You can come down here around like after briefing. You can go here for dinner.
Okay.
And then supper, breakfast is all at the Pendant.
Okay.
Tomorrow for the lunch also.
Tomorrow lunch here, yeah, and dinner here.
To get to Pendant Hut from Labanrata is just a few more steps. You pass Mokadua and Kinatoki hostels on the way.
Of course, my hut's it's awesome. Just a few more stairs. I don't know much about Pendant Hut, but I do know it has the highest post office, old post box in Malaysia. I can see it now. It's every bit as fantastic as I thought it would be. Is that the way? Is it silent? Okay, so we don't have to go back down. That's good.
Just go out tomorrow and then just sell it.
Yeah. Accommodation at Pendant Hut is dorm style, although I think there is also one private room. The sleeping bags are as warm as you can ask for. Unfortunately, the weather didn't get better, it just got worse. I was starting to get a little bit anxious about the conditions for tomorrow's climb. I was wondering whether I should try and do it tomorrow morning or try and wait a day and do it the day after, because I had that flexibility built into my itinerary. At about 3:30 you do the Via Ferrata safety briefing. There is a separate little hands-on activity for the walk the talk and the Lowe's Peak circuits, as they use different equipment. After this you head down to Labanrata to have dinner. There is a gift shop down here as well if you want to buy snacks for the walk, and there are some clothing options for those that forget things like myself.
So I've just finished dinner at Labanrata. I think the wind's died down a little bit, but yeah, still misty, freezing cold. Maybe I'm just protected by the building at the moment, but tomorrow, yeah, I don't like my chances, but I just hope for the best. I'll try to get an early night, and yeah, hope for the best. I forgot to bring my hiking pants too, so I bought some pants. They're not hiking pants. It was the last one they had that fit me. It's 3XL actually. Yeah, I got nothing to say really. It's cold. I'm effing tired after that effort. That walk gets pretty hard after the lunch break because your body cools down and that, and then it's basically all up from there. Yeah, see if I can find my way back to Pendant Hut without getting lost.
The morning of the climb, you will wake up at about 1:30 am. There is a small light breakfast to be had before you start your climb. Ideally I would have left at about 2:30. I didn't realise my guide was already waiting for me and I was just sitting around at Pendant Hut. In the end we ended up leaving at about 2:40. The hardest bit about the start of the climb was trying to maintain the right temperature. We had more wind than is normal, according to the guides. It was an unnaturally cold wind and very consistently strong before we even got close to the peak. Depending on whether you were amongst the bushes or on the exposed rock face, you would either be overheating or extremely cold.
Don't know what time it is, but it's all been uphill so far. So you wear all these cold clothes, but then it gets really hot in the shrub. But as soon as you break out of the tree line, which is about now, it gets really cold again. So you got to carry a bit of stuff, put it on and off, on and off.
After about an hour, give or take, we reached a section of the rock face which requires a rope to climb up. To be honest, the section that we needed the rope for was quite small. Even though the rope goes for hundreds and hundreds of metres, after a short steep section, myself and the guide let go of the rope as there was plenty of grip on the granite to just walk up slowly. This is the Sayat checkpoint. You have to make it here by 5:30, otherwise you won't be allowed to attempt the summit. It is important to remember to have your mountain pass with you, otherwise you won't get past this checkpoint. Even with my semi-late start, I was still here by 3:55. However, I did have to get here a little bit earlier. Not only did I have to get to the summit, I had to get down again to the Via Ferrata starting point by 6:30. As you walk up these slow, gentle slopes, which are just unrelenting, it's important to try and copy the guides. Notice how he walks in zigzag patterns with slow, small footsteps, so you don't use too much of your larger leg muscles and wear yourself out. I was convinced by this point that the elevation signs were a complete fabrication. It felt like you'd gone up about 300 metres and the sign is telling you that you've only gone up about 70.
Made it to the summit. I've got nothing to show you.
I made it to the top, but I could not see a thing. The only plus to this was the fact that nobody was hogging the summit, because nobody could bear to stand there for more than a minute. If I was to waffle on about how magical an experience it was and that it's all about the journey, I'd be lying. The truth is I was pretty annoyed at my luck to have to experience the summit under these conditions. In the right seasons, generally speaking, the summit is always going to be cold, but more often than not, you will get clear conditions at sunrise and sunset, although during the day, the summit tends to have more cloud cover. We had to descend down the mountain because we had to make our way to the Via Ferrata starting point. Also, we needed to get out of the wind as soon as possible. Some of the better viewpoints aren't actually at the summit, but they are on the way up to the summit, slightly after sunrise. On the way back down, there were brief periods where the peaks would reveal themselves through the cloud cover. The moments were fleeting, but incredibly beautiful. And it made me feel a little bit better about the whole climbing experience. Due to the Arctic conditions at the top of the mountain, nobody stuck around at the summit for long, which meant that everybody was well on time for the Via Ferrata activity. There were only 4 of us doing it, which was good because it meant we could get through it quite quickly. We split up into 2 groups of 2, each group with 1 guide. That fog's come down from the top just as we're about to start the Via Ferrata. So hopefully we descend below it. The grip underfoot is really good. You are connected to a cable which is anchored to the granite, and you are also hooked up to a rope which is anchored to the next person in the line. We got off to a shaky start with old mate dropping his water bottle. The fog and mist was all around us, but because we had descended, it's like it rolled over the top of the mountain, and over the edge there was a thin blanket of clear air between us and the fog. At about 7:15, we started to get a bit more consistency in the views. The fog was clearing. Even though it was descending before, it seemed to be dissipating now. You can see the accommodation blocks just below. Lowe's Peak Via Ferrata circuit is split into 3 different sections. The first one is by far the best in my opinion. It is the scale down the wall. The second part is a trek through the forest. The third part is an ascent back up a different wall. After about 1 hour, we were at the suspension bridge. The one thing I dislike about the Via Ferrata looking back is the fact that you are tied to other people in the group. It is hard to set your own pace. There are certain things where I would like to stop and take photos or more video, but I felt like we didn't really get the opportunity just because people were in a rush, which is perfectly understandable because although my package involves another night in Panalaban at Pendant, 99% of people who do this will need to descend the mountain on the same day. Add to that the freezing cold conditions that we've been faced with and the 1:30 AM wake up, and I fully understand why people are trying to get this done. In hindsight, it would have been nice to spend a little bit more time at the suspension bridge as well as at the 3-wire bridge that we're about to cross in a second. Between section 1 and 2 you will stop for a snack and toilet break before you start the forest walk. The forest walk is very scenic, albeit a little bit slippery underfoot. From here you can see the suspension bridge hanging up amongst the granite. The third section of the Via Ferrata is a little bit depressing. Being so close to Pendant, but having to scale up this huge granite slab and then descend again later, felt a little bit backwards. This walk kills your legs, not because it's difficult in itself, but just because it comes as a culmination of having already done the summit, the forest trek and the start of the Via Ferrata. This part of the circuit does mix with the walk the talk circuit, and we did have a bit of a traffic jam having to wait for these people to pass before we could ascend. This marks the end of the Lows Peak circuit, however you still have at least half an hour's walk to get back to Pendant from here.
Alright guys, I'm back out now to talk now. It is just bang on 10 o'clock, like literally 10 o'clock. We started at 2:30, or it was probably 2:40, but call it 7.5 hours to go to the summit, do the Lows Peak Via Ferrata, and then come back down. So fair play to anyone that then has the energy to do the last 6Ks down, but I'm just going to rest now because I've got another night here. So I'm back where I was yesterday. I just had a nap after that big walk. So did everyone else actually that did the Lows Peak circuit. Everyone had a nap. Everyone else had to head off down the mountain. I've got an extra night here. It's kind of good. It's kind of relaxing. At the time, before the nap, I thought there was no way I'd ever be able to make it down the mountain in one day doing the Via Ferrata, but I guess I could. It'd just be a long day. So you can see here, we are above the clouds. This is about 3,300. It's 3,272 meters to be precise. and the peak is 4,095. So I just did the peak this morning. I'm doing a extra night at Pendant Hut, which was part of the tour that I booked, just in case I couldn't get up to the peak. I could do it again, or if I wasn't enjoying it, I could do it again another day, but I'd come back and climb it another time. But at the moment, I just want to move on tomorrow, just have a bit of a sleep in and then climb down the mountain. So that's probably what I'm going to do. Yeah, so I didn't film too much on those climbs, pieces to camera especially, because it's freezing cold. Couldn't hear anything through the mic, and it was just a pain getting things in and out of the bag with all the wind. I don't think I got the best of the summit at all. The only problem with that Via Ferrata is that you really have to make it up to the summit in a hurry, and then you got to come down to the Via Ferrata meeting point for 6:30, so there's no time to stop and take photos and wait for all the cloud to clear, if it will clear. It cleared for us today from the peak at about probably 7:15, but by that time we've already started descending on the Via Ferrata. I tried to get some photos and footage where possible, but I would like to come back another time, do it without the Via Ferrata, hope for some better weather for a start, but then also spend an hour up there just trying to take photos and stuff, because that's probably the thing I missed out on the most. Yeah, maybe another time, but I can't be asked doing it tomorrow. Not sure if you can hear me because there's gale force winds at the moment. I try and put my back to the wind. I thought I'd come down and show you all the hostels and the layout. Yeah, this is Panalaban. This is where I came yesterday, except I couldn't see. I'd say it's equally as windy today. Still freezing cold, just without that. Actually, probably not as cold because it doesn't have that mist. There's little droplets hitting you, but it is freezing cold. So I was going to do a walk around and show you all the hostels and that, but it's not really much to show you. They're all in this little area. The main one behind me is Laban Rata. Panalaban is the area. Laban Rata is the main hostel. You can book that on Sutera Sanctuary Lodges. If you book accommodation, then you have a slot to climb. You just still have to pay for it, obviously, but that's the way you do it, DIY. It's cheaper than doing a tour, although tours are normally easier for most people. Some people like to save money wherever possible. This is Laban Rata. The main hostel, I think, is for Malaysians only. This is the way you go up to the summit. That last building there before the summit climb is Pendant Hut. That's where you stay if you're doing the Via Ferrata. I couldn't show you yesterday because of all the fog.
After having lunch at Laban Rata, you have more free time to do whatever you want. For me, this consisted of lying in a sleeping bag, as all the exposure to the freezing cold weather was starting to get to me.
Okay, so today is my last day. I'm heading down the mountain. I had the option at an extra cost to do the summit climb again, but I opted out. So you're looking at 3 kilometres in elevation change, a lot of temperature changes, and just my nose is feeling a little bit groggy. The option is there if you do this 2 nights at Pendant Hut. It's not included, you have to pay for it again, so it's not part of the tour. I've opted not to do that though. So today, a bit of a sleep in, which I really needed. And then I'm going to head down the mountain and I've got to drive to Kota Kinabalu. There's nothing interesting happening today for me. It's going to be a long day. Probably won't film too much today. Going to do some stretches and warm-ups and then start the walk down after breakfast.
After a big breakfast, I started the walk down at about 10 to 8 or maybe 5 to 8. There isn't a whole lot to film. I took some photos purely just to get some timestamps so I could track how fast I was going down the mountain. Unlike coming up the mountain, you start with a cold body temperature. The winds were still strong today, although the mist was gone and it was a little bit clearer in the morning. I descended down the mountain. I made really good time. I wouldn't have made it so quickly without the hiking poles.
Made it. So I made it back and I made really good time. It was about 2 hours 50.
2 hours 50 is a pretty decent time. It wouldn't have been possible without those hiking poles. That marks the end of this portion of the trip. Now I had to drive back all the way to Kota Kinabalu City to return the rental car and to catch a flight tomorrow to Sandakan. Along the way I stopped in at Headhunter Cafe, which gave me one last glimpse of the mountain from a different side. All in all, Kota Kinabalu. To be honest, I want to come back and do it again. I had a great time.
And showing you my experiences with the Kota.